Breaking news out of Las Vegas. The Raiders have officially released their first depth chart just days before their highly anticipated clash with the New England Patriots. And let me tell you, this lineup holds some surprising twists that nobody saw coming. From unexpected starters to shocking backup assignments, Raider Nation is buzzing with questions. What do these changes mean heading into Week 1? Stay locked in. We're breaking it all down right now. So, here's what we know. The Raiders' first depth chart of the season has been unveiled, and it's raising eyebrows across the league. While much of the offense looks familiar, there are a few key developments worth paying close attention to. First, rookie Jackson Powers-Johnson has secured the starting right guard spot. Throughout training camp, he was in a tight battle with veteran Alex Kappa. But the competition is over. JPJ has won the job outright. That's a major sign of trust from the coaching staff. But here's where things get really interesting. Amari Cooper is listed as a backup wide receiver behind Jakobi Meyers. Now, backups still play plenty of snaps in today's NFL, but fans expected Cooper to slot in as a starter immediately. Instead, the Raiders are giving that spot to Dante Thornton, a rookie who has shown flashes of potential but has also faced criticism for inconsistent hands and shaky route running during camp. This decision is a bold one. Some around the league believe Cooper was brought in specifically to take that role, yet the Raiders are sticking with Thornton as part of their starting trio. It raises the question, are the Raiders betting on upside, or is this just a temporary move before things shift again? Before we dive deeper into what these changes could mean for Week 1, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button and don't forget to ring the bell icon so you never miss a single update. Now, let's get back to the big story. Now here's another detail that stands out on this depth chart. Amari Cooper's role. Yes, he's officially listed as a backup, which actually makes sense given how the wide receiver rotation is shaping up. Behind him, Jack Beck rounds out the unit as the fifth wide receiver. At quarterback, the picture is clear. Geno Smith enters the season as QB1, with Kenny Pickett as the primary backup. Rookie Cam Miller, who spent time with the Raiders in the preseason, might not even lock in as the third quarterback, especially since the team just added another arm to the roster. That's a situation worth keeping an eye on. Shifting to the offensive line, the Raiders' choices reflect a very structured plan. Charles Grant is set as the backup left tackle, while Stone Forsythe holds down the right tackle reserve spot. Some fans have wondered whether Grant could swing over to the right side if needed, but from what we're seeing, that's not the case. If Kolton Miller were to go down, Grant would take his spot. If DJ Glaze were unavailable, Forsythe would step in. Straightforward, no guessing. But here's where the real shakeup happens, on the defensive line. For much of training camp, Jonah Laulu was penciled in as a starter at defensive tackle. Now, that role has flipped, and Thomas Booker is the man the Raiders are putting their trust in. And honestly, it's hard to argue. Booker has been more explosive and consistent throughout preseason, while Laulu has yet to prove he's taken the next step forward. The truth is, reports hyping up Laulu never quite matched what we saw on the field. He didn't flash much last year, and expecting him to suddenly become a dominant force overnight was always a stretch. That's why Booker getting the nod feels like the right call. He's earned it. So, as things stand now, the defensive front is clearly defined, with Booker solidifying his place among the four key guys who'll carry the load up front. And with the Patriots matchup around the corner, this decision could set the tone for how tough the Raiders' defense looks early in the season. Here's where things get a little concerning for the Raiders. The defensive tackle group. On paper, there's some upside. Players like Thomas Booker, Jonah Laulu, Tonka Hemingway, and J.J. Pegues all bring flashes of potential. But upside alone doesn't win games. The truth is this unit still feels thin, and right now, it doesn't strike fear into opposing offenses. That reality is about to be tested immediately. The Raiders open against a revamped New England Patriots offensive line, a unit that has been rebuilt with power and depth. This isn't a walkover matchup by any stretch. The Patriots aren't tanking, they're reloading, and they're looking to establish themselves as contenders again. The Raiders' defensive tackles will be thrown straight into the fire, and we'll quickly learn if this group can generate real pressure. Now, there are a couple of silver linings. Tonka Hemingway could push for more snaps as he develops, and Adam Butler remains a steady presence who can help stabilize the interior. Plus, the Raiders could use Tyree Wilson in certain packages to bring extra juice inside. Still, at this moment, the defensive line feels like one of the biggest question marks on the roster. As for the linebackers, not much has shifted. Jermaine Pratt, Elandon Roberts, and Devin White make up the top three. Behind them, names like Jamal Adams, Tommy Eichenberg, and Brennan Jackson round out the depth chart. And here's where it gets interesting. Jackson isn't a traditional off-ball linebacker. With the Rams, he played more as a pass rusher, so slotting him behind Devin White feels a little unusual. It leaves us wondering, will the Raiders try to mold him into a new role, or will they eventually shift him back into an edge-rushing spot? That's one storyline worth tracking as the season unfolds. But the biggest spotlight on defense doesn't stop there. The cornerback position has undergone the most dramatic changes, and this is where things truly get fascinating for the Raiders. And here's where the depth chart really delivers a surprise. One of the biggest offseason storylines was the rise of rookie corner Darian Porter. All camp long, he was being hyped as the next great Raiders defensive back, earning first-team reps and building momentum with every practice. But when the official chart dropped, Porter wasn't starter. He's listed as a backup. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean he won't play. Porter is still going to see the field plenty, and his development is a huge part of this team's future. But it does show that the coaching staff is taking the long view. Rookie corners usually need time to adjust to the speed and complexity of the NFL. By easing him in rather than throwing him straight into the fire, the Raiders might be setting him up for long-term success. So who did win the job opposite Eric Stokes? That honor goes to Q Blue Kelly, a name that wasn't even in the conversation just a few weeks ago. Kelly's rise has been one of the quietest but most impressive stories of camp. 6 weeks back, he was barely on the radar, and now he's stepping in as a starter. That tells you everything about how much he's earned the staff's trust. The Raiders tried plenty of options before landing here. Cameron Richardson, Jacorian Bennett. Even Sam Webb got looks at that spot. But none of them stuck. Bennett has been traded, Webb's been cut, and the job now belongs to Kelly. The big question is whether he can hold it down once live action begins. Inside, the slot corner role goes to Darnay Holmes, who brings veteran experience to the middle of the defense. But don't overlook the flexibility here. Coaches also experimented with Kelly in the slot during camp. If Tyler Harper struggles inside, it wouldn't be shocking to see Kelly shift over and Porter step up on the outside. In short, the Raiders' cornerback room looks very different than many expected. A rookie phenom in Porter being brought along carefully, a rising underdog in Kelly winning a starting job, and a reliable veteran in Holmes anchoring the slot. It's a mix of promise, surprise, and uncertainty, and it's going to be one of the most fascinating positions to watch when Week 1 kicks off. Another wrinkle to remember is how the Raiders plan to use their secondary rotations this year. Don't expect a traditional nickel look on every snap. Instead of always running with 3 corners and 2 safeties, the Raiders are leaning heavily on the big nickel package. That's 2 corners and 3 safeties on the field together. We already saw glimpses of it in preseason. Jeremy Chin dropped into the box to cover that hybrid slot role, while Isaiah Polamau handled deep coverage duties. Early in camp, it was Lonnie Johnson Jr. pairing with him before injury sidelined him. More recently, Chris Smith has stepped into that role. Add in veterans like Terrell Edmonds and the newly acquired Tristan McCullum, and you've got a deep, versatile safety room that gives the Raiders flexibility. But here's the bigger picture. The Raiders' secondary as a whole has gone through constant change. Fans have noticed, and it's a fair concern. While playoff-caliber teams usually have their top 4 or 5 defensive backs locked in from the start, the Raiders have been shuffling pieces nonstop. 6 different corners have been tested across camp before settling on Darian Porter's development and Q Blue Kelly's emergence. At safety, the pieces around Chin and Polamau have rotated constantly. That revolving door effect makes it hard to build the kind of chemistry great defenses thrive on. Yes, some of that turnover has been caused by injuries. Yes, some of it is natural roster competition. But when you're still sorting through options this close to the season, it raises questions about how ready this secondary really is. The talent is there, the versatility is there, but the Raiders need stability. And with Week 1 just days away, we're about to find out whether all these moving parts can finally come together against a disciplined Patriots offense. When Lonnie Johnson Jr. went down, the expectation was that the Raiders' depth at safety would hold steady. Chris Smith looked like the next man up, but consistency hasn't been there. That uncertainty led to the signings of Carl Edmonds and Tristan McCullum. a clear signal that the coaching staff still isn't fully comfortable with the group. And the churn hasn't stopped there. New defensive linemen, linebackers, and late additions like Jamal Adams have all cycled through as the Raiders try to find the right mix. The reality is simple. This defense isn't built to carry the team. The Raiders' identity is supposed to be offense-driven. Yet even on that side of the ball, questions remain. The offensive line has untested pieces at center and right tackle. Rookie wideout Dante Thornton shows flashes but still feels raw. And in less than a week, he'll be facing a battle-tested Patriots secondary ready to challenge him physically from the very first snap. The same goes for other young starters. Hugh Blue Kelly and Thomas Booker will be thrown directly into the fire against a New England team that wastes no time exposing inexperience. How quickly these players adjust could determine whether the Raiders start strong or stumble early. Special teams also delivered a few surprises. Trey Tucker has been named both the kick and punt returner, edging out Dylan Lobby, whom many expected to win at least one of those jobs. Lobby, however, earned his roster spot with standout work on coverage units throughout preseason. And then came roster moves few saw coming. Linebacker Matt Jones, a rookie, was let go. Even more surprising, safety Trey Taylor was released outright. Taylor had already re-signed to the practice squad. So many believed he'd be kept around for depth. Instead, after a rough preseason where he looked a step slow, the Raiders cut ties completely. In his place, the team chose to bring in fresh talent at other positions. It all underscores one truth. The Raiders are still shaping this roster on the fly. And with the Patriots waiting in Week 1, every decision, every adjustment, and every gamble will be tested under the bright lights. After parting ways with Matt Jones, the Raiders wasted no time filling the gap by signing veteran linebacker Brian Asamoah. Once a mid-round pick of the Vikings, Asamoah showed real promise as a rookie. Quick, instinctive, and able to cover ground. But his development stalled, partly due to size concerns and partly because of Minnesota's defensive changes. Still, the raw talent is there, and if the Raiders can unlock it, he could become a valuable rotational piece in Patrick Graham's scheme. On the offensive side, another intriguing move came at quarterback. The team added veteran Jeff Driscoll, a name that carries experience across several NFL stops. With Kenny Pickett entering his 4th season and rookie Cam Miller still finding his footing, Driscoll provides a stabilizing presence. He's not here to compete for the starting role, but he offers something different. A reliable hand if injuries strike, and a seasoned arm to run the scout team offense against the Raiders' defense in practice. This signing also sparks a subtle question. What does it say about the team's confidence in its depth chart? If Pickett is locked in and Miller is being developed for the long term, then Driscoll represents insurance, a safety net the Raiders clearly feel they need heading into the season. So here we are. Over the past week, the Raiders have shuffled linebackers, added to their secondary, and even tweaked the quarterback room. These aren't just small housekeeping moves. They're the kind of adjustments that reveal a team still sharpening its edges before Week 1. The Patriots are waiting, and in just a few days, we'll see if all these calculated moves pay off, or if the Raiders are still searching for answers when the lights come on.